All right, I guess that is my cue. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Talking the Walk Communication Toolkit webinar. My name is Nick Gliha, and I am a community engagement specialist here with Church World Service, having the privilege and honor of serving congregations and walks in the Midwest area. And joining me today is my colleague, Erin. Erin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Erin Luchenbill. I'm a community engagement manager. I'm based in Massachusetts, and I primarily serve crop hunger walks and congregations along the Northeast.
Right on. And we are just so excited to have you here because there is a lot of news happening all over the place. And this is an opportunity for us to get some good, exciting, missional based news out there and letting everyone know about it. Now, I don't know where you're all from, but for me, I've got just a little taste of spring outside, and it is just lifting off that seasonal depression. I am just so excited by it. And so let us know in the chat if you've got some spring by you and where you're from.
Yes, and we're also having some spring this week in Massachusetts, and it's been lovely. But I learned the hard lesson that just yesterday that just because it's nice during the daytime, it is still March, and it doesn't mean when the sun sets, it's still warm. And I froze at my son's soccer practice last night because I did not dress appropriately in the evening.
See, us in the Midwest just call that like a Midwest spring. It's beautiful one day, and then it's snowing the next day, and then it's, great again the next day. All
I
right.
can't see the chat right now. Are people telling us where they're coming from?
Yeah, we got some from Lexington, Kentucky. We've got our friend Bob from Reading, Pennsylvania. Our colleague Andrew's with us. Good to have you, John. Adam and Nita. My good friend Marty from Oak Park. Good to see you, Marty. Some more from PA. PA people are going to be happy. You're going to get a call out later on.
Yes.
Ooh, a friend from Pasadena, California. That sounds like it is
Oh.
nice out there. All right, right on. Let's get rolling. So, just a little bit of housekeeping news for y'all. This is being recorded, just as a heads up. You may have heard that webinar being recorded at the start. And so that means that if you have to pop off at any time, don't worry about it because this will be emailed out to you after. And we encourage you to email this to anyone else in your planning team who may not have been able to be here today either to get an idea of what we talked about. Also, this is a communications webinar, and so it's not much of a communication if it's a one-way thing. We want this to be interactive, and we invite you to respond to the questions in the chat that you'll see on the slides as we go along. I mean, I've been here only about a year. Erin's been here for how long?
12.
12 years. And some of you have been coordinating walks longer than the two of us combined. And so I
Yes.
imagine we can all learn from each other, and we're grateful for the knowledge that you can share.
Yeah.
And of course, if anything comes up in today's webinar that you were like, what was that about? Or where could I find that resource or that link? Please don't ever hesitate to reach out to your CWS staff person. We are always so happy to help you out.
And we love hearing from you.
All right. So to get us started off, one of the things that we had just sent out relatively recently was a survey to our event coordinators, our walkers, our team captains, and we were asking from them, what can we do to help make your walks be more successful? And something that I was surprised by personally is that the third highest response was talking about a communications plan. So I'm bringing in probably the foremost expert here at CWS on communications plan, Erin Luchenbill. Why is communication so important for walk planning? And what's it look like for you?
Yeah. So I'm a fundraiser for Church World Service, and I help manage a team of fundraisers. And I personally carry a large portfolio of crop hunger walks that raise a certain amount of funds. Nick carries a smaller portfolio that raises a higher level of funds. And so our team has found in the past, because we work with a lot of walks, The key to be able to support each and every one of you and provide the services that we want to do is to be effective communicators and regular communicators. And so we developed a communications plan for ourselves so that we could make sure we're communicating important information to you as a walk leader so you feel equipped. And so the same can be true for you as the walk coordinator or as a walk leader in terms of getting information out. So I think that a communications plan helps us be proactive in what and how we communicate. So people often need to hear information more than once. So regular communication ensures that information that you need to be heard is getting conveyed. A communication plan also helps you as a walk leader convey the hope and excitement you have about the walk. It's really important to create that energy and momentum, and having good regular communications can help make that happen before walk day even starts. Also, if you are a walk that is led by just a few faithful leaders, a communications plan can really help make your job easier because you've got a set plan on how you're going to relay the information so that it does not feel so overwhelming when there's only a few of you planning. So I think that that can really help support you in your work. One other thing that I wanted to mention, the survey report that Nick just referenced, another top area that was mentioned that people ask for assistance with is in terms of recruitment. That continues to come up as a top area of needing help, and having a communications plan can help you build a stronger community and stronger engagement for the walk, which in turn can help build you a network of people that might like to help join you in planning and promoting the walk.
Absolutely. Those are some great thoughts. And something I wanted to share was in my previous line of work, I was a youth director at a YMCA. And one of my first tasks that I had done was create a youth night on a Friday evening for a bunch of school-aged kids. And my team and I spent months planning this together. We got bounce houses, we got sponsors, we got the pool reserved, we had all this fantastic stuff. But along the way, none of us had thought to get the message out and actually invite people. And so while we had an amazing event, unfortunately, no one was there to actually see it. And we know that many of you have put together some incredible walks over the years, that walks that communicate a message of hope in times that are a little bit distressing, that communicate just how needed this is globally and locally. And we want to make sure that your walk gets more attendance than, say, my youth night did. And that's why I think these plans matter.
Yes.
All right, we've got a couple things in the chat too that I want to make sure I lift up, especially for the recording. Andrew shared that he thinks it's important because it helps keep a walk planning organized and everyone is informed of important details and mission updates. And Marty lifted up that their leadership team meets every few weeks to discuss a bunch of subjects like publicity plans, business solicitation, logistics, safety, team recruitment. They stay busy. Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that. All right, awesome, Erin. So you've got a really good reason for why we do it and why communication matters, but sometimes it's a little bit harder to communicate what. So how do you communicate with your walkers and your planners, and what type of content do you try to share?
So I am a big fan of thinking of all types of communication when you're reaching out to people, because everyone responds differently to how they hear information. So I think it's good in a plan to think about emails that you might send, phone calls that you want to make, social media posts, text messaging. So all of those can be great ways of how you're communicating, and mixing it up can ensure that you're catching everyone in the ways that they best need to hear information. And then in terms of the types of email or types of messages that you might want to use, the plan that our team works on, we typically try to think of some key categories of what we want people to hear. One of those is communicating impact stories. So it's so important as we are asking people to fundraise and support the Crop Hunger Walk that we let them know the impact of what they're doing. And so we try at least once a month to communicate to you all. If you're one of the people that I work with, you've received these emails or messages in terms of sharing the stories of the impact of fundraising. Those are so important. But along with that, sometimes you just have to have communications with more of those logistic details so that your youth event is attended and not attended. So you've got to let people know the location, the time, all the details about the walk. So those are important communications. And then another type of category we use is what we call coaching emails. And that could be where you're sharing a fundraising tip so that people feel equipped in doing the work that they're doing to support the Crop Hunger Walk. So those types of categories help switch up the types of communication so it's not the same thing. And then it also touches on some of the key points that are important in terms of having a successful Crop Hunger Walk.
Absolutely. I also think it's so important to vary your impact stories in the so many projects that CWS and the Crop Hunger Walk supports. It's amazing and humbling to me how often I'll get to do presentations on us and we have like 10 minutes or something. And I'm like, I don't think I can possibly put in all that we do in 10 minutes from water access and hygiene services and refugees and global development and hunger and poverty and all this stuff. And I think the reason it's important to highlight a variety of things is you don't know what's going to touch the heart of a certain donor versus another one. Mm. I remember, for example, working with a committee in Naperville, and we were talking all about the hunger stuff, and people were like, yeah, that's important. And then one day I talked about how period packs help serve kids who may not have the hygiene equipment they need to go to school. And suddenly someone wrote a really big check because they were like, I was that girl, and I don't want that to be for anybody else. So really spreading out that impact can really get the communication about your walk and really legitimize the work that the Crop Hunger Walk supports.
Yeah. Anyone share any?
Going to lift a couple of comments up in the chat as well. Stephen wanted to highlight that communication is important because it builds morale and it keeps the walk fresh because they've been doing it for a long time. Yeah, we've heard that one, my friend. Heather shares that every walk season I get asked by someone, where does this walk take place or what time does the walk start? So making sure we're updating our pages and our websites regularly can help cut down on some of that. We're going to get to that too, don't worry.
Yeah.
And then Chris said, thanks to CWS, we email participants throughout the year, telling them what we raised the previous year, and that keeps them informed about the current year's walk. You're already stealing some of our ideas here, Chris.
I know. Great comment. Did you see this in advance?
Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I loved this comment that we had gotten on the survey we had sent out because I think it's so thoughtful. People had shared that I want to communicate my walk, but I'm worried I'm going to annoy my donors or my walkers if I reach out too much. So what's your response to that, Erin? And how often do you communicate?
Yeah. So even though I am a firm believer that you communicate often, and I actually recommend you communicate weekly when you're getting close to the walk date. And I don't think it's too much. And I feel very confident in that, and you should too. But also, I wanted to share on that, like worried that I'm going to annoy donors and walkers. I wanted to share an example. This past fall, we had the back-to-back hurricanes that happened in the Southeast, and Church World Service was responding to those disasters. And I was personally posting our response and asking my friends and family to support the emergency response that we had set up at Church World Service. So I was posting on Facebook, encouraging my friends to donate. And I had posted multiple times. And my cousin texted me after like the second or third time I had made a post. She texted me and said, Erin, thank you so much for reminding us about donating to the hurricane response. I, just got that made. And I was really glad you reminded us. And to me, that's it. Like, I can't tell you how many times I might see somebody's doing a fundraiser on Facebook that I care about and I want to support them. And then my son distracts me and I completely forget. I need reminders. We all need reminders. And so I think the message is you're not annoying. You're actually helping equip people to help when they're ready to do that. So more is good in this case. to be more specific, I really think in terms of your walk, I recommend start communicating weekly, 6 to 8 weeks leading up to the walk. It's really not too much. If you are a smaller walk and you're like, that's too much, maybe you know that your walk really starts promoting, the team captains start 1 month before. If that's the case, then make it, weekly in the month leading up. You know your community best to do that, but I do think a regular weekly communication is going to be effective. Um, and then going back to, I forgot who made the comment, but don't forget about what I call the off season. So once you're communicating regularly leading up to the walk, then hopefully you are communicating a few times after the walk so that everyone knows the success of the walk, how much you raise, the impact of that in your own local community. But then remember, even a couple months later and a couple months after that, keep communicating with those walkers. If you get a story from one of your community event staff people about an impact on how those funds are raised, share that story with the walkers 3 months after the walk and say, hey, thanks again for walking. This is the impact that your donations have made. And if you do those kind of off-season touch points, it's going to keep the momentum going on your walk. And also when you're ready to start the next one, everyone's still excited because you've been reaching out to them. You've been communicating the power of their fundraising and they're ready to go for the next year.
Absolutely. And this is kind of a fundraising note or tip, I suppose, but we've often heard that it takes between 4 to 6, 4 to 8 asks before someone becomes activated as a donor. And so you might reach out to someone 2, 3 times and you're like warming up the fire, but it's not quite caught. And it's not a bad thing to just keep asking, keep asking, keep asking until they say no. And I also want to say that I think it validates your passion for the walk. There is a lot of social causes out there right now, and there's a lot of social noise, especially coming from our phones. And when I see somebody who is truly, as they say, passionate about the Crop Hunger Walk, and it's every day, every week, they are posting about it. They're saying, I want you to be a part of this. I want you to be a part of this. I start to believe that myself. You really do want me to be a part of this. You really are passionate about it. So leading up to the walk, continue to build that hype, continue to build that momentum, and you'll be really surprised at the turnout you can get.
Yeah, passion can go a long way. Do we have anyone sharing?
Nothing in the chat right now, but if y'all lift up anything,
right.
there will be some time for Q&A at the end, and we can circle back to that then. All right. So we've talked a little bit about how often to send. We've reassured people we're not going to upset them if we send too much. But how do we determine who gets what? Do you personally parse out something different between your team captains and all walkers, or how do you handle it, Erin?
Yeah, we do. So on our team, we do think about communications that might be geared specifically for the event coordinator or co-coordinator. We have some communications geared specifically for treasurers so that they're equipped in their role with the walk. And then we will have some communications for team captains to support them in their role. And so I think it does help when you think about the types of people that are engaged in your walk and how you want to communicate to each of those groups. So team captains can really be it can be helpful to communicate, the fundraising tips so that they can pass that along to their team members that are fundraising, to share the impact stories so that they know the impact and their team will know the impact. It's really important with walkers that you're communicating information about the walk as well as fundraising tips and examples. I think with walkers, it's good to not just share the impact, but say, here's an impact of the funds that you're raising. Share this with your donors. So you're encouraging them to pass that story along as well so that their donors know the impact of their dollars. With the walkers and sharing the information about the walk, I know Heather mentioned this in the comments as well, but another feedback we got on the walker survey that we had conducted that came up often in the feedback was that walkers didn't feel like they had enough information about walk day. So I think that's where it's super important. You can keep your Crop Hunger Walk page, the box that's on the main page, update that with your local information, but it's also why promoting on social media with the details, sending an email, the more you can get all those details, then a walker feels that they know the information and they're ready for what to expect on walk day. I do just want to mention that if you are a smaller walk and you are like, there is no way I can send communications to 3 different groups, no problem. I think if you're just sending a regular communication to everyone involved, that's helpful. So if you're like, I don't have the capacity to split this into 3 groups, don't just send. I think the key is communicate.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to lift up a note I just saw. Heather had just posted a link in the chat just a moment ago that takes you directly to the page, the form to fill out to update your website. So if you've never seen that
Excellent.
before, that's an opportunity. And I also want to reiterate how important it is just to communicate the super basics with all of your walkers. That start time, the location, the parking, make sure to bring a water bottle, anything like
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. Because for us, CWS staff, I think we could actually navigate the One Cause website with a blindfold on at this point. I think some of our team captains and our event coordinators, you know that website really well and you keep it up to date. But honestly, I don't know if all of our walkers visit that page quite as often as we would like them to. And so just sending out that information directly to them, make sure that your walkers have a good experience and want to come back the next year.
Yeah.
All right. Lifting up one other comment that came through first before we jump on to the next one. Linda. Oh, hi, Linda. You're one of mine. Good to see you. uh, the first year I asked for a donation, the donor gave a sizable donation. And the next year, this donor asked for more information about the organization. And I was able to tell them of the construction after the 2010 earthquake in Haiti. And her response was to write a second sizable check. And her third year was to use RMD funds to submit an even more sizable contribution without even my asking.
Awesome.
So that's why it's so important to be passionate about the cause and communicate all of the different things that we do. Thank you so much for your comment,
Yes,
Linda.
that's awesome.
Okie doke. So as we start to circle into the end here, all of this has been pretty helpful. But if you don't know exactly what you can share, where to find that kind of stuff, then we have failed you as your facilitators today. So you do not need to reinvent the wheel, my friends. We have got plenty of information and content that can help you out. Erin, would you like to share some of the examples of where they can find that stuff?
Yes, I would. So I think one of the best resources that you can check is our resources section of the Crop Hunger Walk page. And I know Heather's going to put that direct link to the resources page in the chat so you can have that. That is full of wonderful content. You can find there is a sample announcements that a team captain could use in the 6 weeks leading up to the walk, that every week there's a different announcement that they could use during worship service that's already all right there for you. There is social media content in terms of memes and other tools that you could use on social media for promoting. We have a new Crop Hugger Walk theme. It's called Chickens, Beans, and Big Dreams. And we have a whole new suite of wonderful resources related to that theme, including some moments for mission and activity guides. So those moments for mission are great for communicating about the walk, but also you could pull some of that information to share as a story of change. So those are great places. Speaking of story of change, if you go to the main Church World Service webpage, and Heather's going to put the link here as well for you, but there is within that page, a Stories of Change subpage. And that page is a wealth of fabulous information. It's updated regularly with the impact of our programs around the world. It features all our different programs. So it's a great place to get a story for as an example of what your funds are raised. And also it's just a great page. If you're having like a down day and you're feeling a little down, go to that page and read some of the stories, because it's going to lift you up and remind you what a beautiful world we live in. So that's a great place. If you are on social media, follow the Church World Service and the Crop Hunger Walk social media pages, because those are other great places to get good content that you can we put it out there because we want you to use it. So copy and paste it, forward it, share it. Those are use that material. That's the idea behind it. And then I think the other excellent source for getting information is from your fellow Crop Hunger Walk leaders, because you all have been doing this and you do wonderful work and you have great communications. And I actually just wanted to share a couple examples because I think that between all of you, you also have great resources for people to use. So the first I wanted to mention was the walk. There's the Southeast Berks, Pennsylvania walk, and that Crop Hunger Walk kind of early on in their planning sent out an email. The first part was the general walk information, what we've been kind of reiterating, where the walk's happening, what time, what to expect, where the local funds, who they're supporting, the impact of, it also included the impact of like from the previous year of both their local impact and the global impact. And then the second part of the email was encouraging fundraising goals. We know that if you set a fundraising goal, you have more success in your fundraising efforts. And so it's not only helpful to have a goal set for your overall walk fundraising, but to encourage every team to have a fundraising goal. And they used this email and included the all of the teams that had participated the previous year, the number of walkers and how much they raised, and then encouraged them to look at that data and set a bigger goal for the next year. So, if you were the Temple United Methodist and you had 18 walkers, maybe your goal this year is 25 walkers and $1,800. So I just thought this was a great way to communicate information about the walk and to encourage the goal setting that will help with your fundraising efforts. And then another example I wanted to share was with the Mechanicsburg West Shore, Pennsylvania Crop Hunger Walk. And that's the shout out to all of our Pennsylvanias. Both examples I realized were from Pennsylvania. So thank you, Pennsylvania, for representing today. But I'm not going to read this whole email, but I'm going to stop talking for a minute so that you can read it. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about why I thought this was a nice example.
I do absolutely agree. When I was reading through this email myself, it is a perfect example of summarizing each of the types of communication that we think you should share. So Erin will share more about that in a second.
Yeah. Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't place my notes into this slide. So what I wanted to highlight on this one was what I thought was really helpful in this email is it first featured a registration success. So in terms of, we were talking about that communications can help build that momentum and excitement about the walk. So it started with this wonderful success. Actually, maybe I should go back a slide. I'm going to go back a slide so you can see as I highlight it. So, the first thing was the registration success, that they've, as of like that morning, 252 walkers, we're creating that energy and momentum. And kind of the next part of the email talked about a fundraising achievement. So this church had done a special fundraiser to raise extra funds for the Crop Hunger Walk. And so it was highlighting that as an example and the success that they had in their fundraising. And then the next part, it led into an actual fundraising tip, kind of that coaching that I mentioned that can be helpful, that it often takes the 4 to 6 invitations. And so it was providing a tip for the walkers. And then it included an inspirational verse to kind of ground and remind everyone of what this is about. And then it ended with gratitude. And gratitude is so important in all of our work. And so the constant thanking, like that gratitude is important. And so it ended with that gratitude. And I just thought that really highlighted a lot of key points that were helpful when you're doing communications. So you can see some of those examples of the registration success, fundraising, tip and achievement, inspiration, and gratitude.
Yes, we encourage you to write down those 5 things as some stuff to motivate yourselves going forward. And the last minute that we've got together, I just wanted to make sure to plug and highlight that if you're looking for some more really personal stories to go to share, we've got one more webinar coming up here in just a couple of weeks, and it's going to be our Crop Around the World Africa edition. Some of our very fortunate staff, not this one here, but the other one, got to go to see some of our programs firsthand last February, and we'll be sharing a little bit more about that. And it's a great accompanying webinar to go with all those new resources as part of our Chickens, Beans, and Big Dreams. And I think combined of hearing the personal stories and seeing the information that's provided to you will give you a lot of confidence going forward to talk about the work that CWS is doing. So I think Heather's going to drop some information about the webinar in the chat, as well as the registration link. And we hope to see each and every one of you there as well. With our final 30-ish seconds, I'm not sure how long we have, but somewhere in that area. I don't see any questions at the moment, but there have been a lot of really great links to do some collaborative work, especially on social media with the Crop Hunger Walk stuff. So we encourage you to check that out. Check out the other links that we've talked about. And if always a question comes up later, on the drive home from work or something, you can reach out to your CWS staff person, and we are always happy to help you. So thank you so much for giving up part of your afternoon to be here with us and to share some of your insights with us too.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Linda, I will reach out separately and help you out that online account right away. Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Have a great one.